Well, hey, welcome back to the CCHF virtual experience. You have been through CCHF-X, where you've heard incredible speakers talk about what God is doing in their sphere of influence. And we've got two of those folks right here. This is Beth and Greg Delaney. Hey, thank you all so much for sharing from your hearts up on stage a little bit ago. Yeah, absolutely. And we're so glad that you're here at the conference. So you told us a little about your story, about how what God has done to bring you into recovery and what you guys have done in your marriage. I want to ask the question, so what is God doing in your life now? What is he doing? What are you excited about that God's doing?
You're good. Yeah, go ahead.
No,
You go ahead. Yeah, sure.
Well, this is crazy because after a years and years, 30 years of being a nurse practitioner in the oncology and palliative care space, he said, girl, you're going to be an entrepreneur now. I said, what? He said, all that education and stuff is for me. I said, what? And so I find myself in three lanes, three nonprofit lanes.
Okay.
One, a middle school and high school social emotional learning project that, so like sometimes people freak out when you say that, but it's really trying to put good decision making in schools for middle school and high schoolers. Never planned that in my entire career, but God made the way.
That's right.
And here we are, and it's successful and super fun.
Okay.
Making changes in schools across Ohio now and then in the country.
That's awesome.
Number two, trying to help cancer patients, taking that experience, trying to put supportive services and create products that are specifically designed for cancer patients as they're going through treatment.
Oh, wow.
Super fun virtual platforms, filling in the gaps between what's provided at the core cancer team, not competing but collaborating, and helping them across the journey.
Wow.
Finally, I'm a chief wellness officer at Her Story House in Xenia, Ohio. Homeless women coming off the street, trying to get into recovery. We have a model that collaborates with another group called Safe Harbor House, and we try to provide from the moment of contemplation when somebody says, I want to get into recovery, through a journey that could last up to 2 years, getting them as the chief wellness officer information and understanding about their medicine, understanding about wellness, understanding about community connections, making sure they're ready for appointments, translating what's in a MyChart portal, and getting it into a place where we can learn and help other nonprofits do the same.
That's
there you go.
Awesome. That's awesome.
God, dude.
What would you add, Greg?
Well, I mean, because this is something I've been doing since starting recovery 15 years ago. And after a year of just healing up and being ordained into ministry in 2009, my whole call has been that, you know, if you listen to part of the story, I never felt comfortable inside the walls of my church when I was struggling. And that feeling was horrible. Because I knew everybody around me loved me. They knew me. We had grown up together, but they didn't know how to help me. So that has pushed me into a calling to educate churches, educate their leaders, their pastors, and everyone around what substance use is, what mental health is, and creating tools and opportunities for them to learn how they can become what we're calling now recovery friendly, so that no one has to sit in the pew and feel the way that I felt. And it's morphed over time. It's changed over time. It's been really amazing in that it's created collaborations and friendships all across the country.
That's awesome.
It's translated into a toolkit that our friends at the Partnership Center and the Health and Human Services in Washington, D.C., we helped to write. Both for substance use and for mental health. It's partnerships. It was fun today with the other speakers that were from Nashville. One of my best friends in the space that does this with me is Dr. Monty Burks.
Awesome.
He's a leader here. And so my role is there and continue to try to pastor and then really trying to encourage others to step into the space given their giftings with God. I get a chance to have so many interactions. And so when Beth mentioned her story, Her Story House was the genesis from a friend of ours who was just trying to get her friend into treatment and became frustrated. We came alongside her in her calling, intersected her with other partners that we had learned from and met in the journey, and gave her the tools to finally open her nonprofit. And now her nonprofit is serving hundreds of women probably now, and is in a position to be a model for others.
That's awesome.
Because of the way that we've constructed it. So that's where my heart is.
Okay, so we only have a couple minutes left,
Sure.
maybe 1 minute left or so. Both of you are doing awesome work. God's doing awesome work through you. Let me change that.
Exactly.
The subject of that sentence. You're working in schools, working with churches, and in a variety of areas. If folks are watching and they want to get connected to the things that you all are doing, I know I saw you answer some questions in the chat. It's really, really helpful. what's the method to get connected? If they're working with a school wanting to get that curriculum about how to do SEL in their school, or if they're a church wanting to get recovery, making their church more recovery friendly, how do they get to you or get to the resources to help do that?
So that will be on the app, but
Okay.
the email addresses are pretty easy. I'll give them the I Want Goods because they're easy.
absolutely.
So you can email us at beth@iwantgood.org.
Beth@iwantgood.org.
Or greg@iwantgood.org. Those are our middle school and high school partner email addresses.
Awesome.
But feel free to reach out to us through the app. And Steve knows how to get all of us, right? Because Steve knows how to
Steve
get
knows
all of
that-
everybody,
yeah,
right?
Steve's got everybody. That's right.
That's what we know. Yes,
That's
she
right.
knows how to get all of everybody, right?
That's right. That's right. Hey, I'm so glad you guys are here. Thank you for sharing your wisdom with us and for sharing the vulnerability of your story. I think it's really powerful. And I think it provides, your vulnerability opens others up to share their story too. So thanks for being here.
Thanks for interviewing us, man.
Absolutely.
Have a good day.
God bless
Thanks,
you all.
guys. Take care.
Bye.
I'll take that. Thanks.
Cool.
Well, as you can see, there's so much wisdom here. Oh no, you guys are.
I guess
you guys
I'm
are,
leaving.
You guys are good. Thank you so much. Yeah, as you can see, there's so much wisdom here, so much to be gained just by joining in, by tuning in. So we're glad you're here. Now we're going to have another one of our CCHFX speakers come up. This is Dr. Allard. Come on in. Come on in. There's a mic for you. Hey, thanks for.
Closer.
Sure, might as well. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for what
pleasure.
you shared, and thanks for the work that you're doing. We heard you talk about the study and about what you're learning about this deep, dark place of our country. And so I would like to hear from you. How did God call you into this work? The work that God has you in, and you're helping write the story of this work for those that don't have a voice. But how did God get you into this?
Yeah, well, it's a twofold story, and I'll make it brief. But I was in corporate life in the Washington, D.C. area and kind of minding my own business, making money, and kind of enjoying it. It was working out pretty well, actually. It was working out pretty well. And then all of a sudden, I had an opportunity to go on a street outreach with a church group.
Wow.
And that's when God had decided that was my divine appointment. And I met this woman. Her name is Heather. I'm still friends with her today, 16 years later, and she and I sat on a stoop in downtown Baltimore for about 3 hours, and she proceeded to tell me about her life, and it just ripped a hole in my heart, and I knew that I wasn't going to be able to turn around and go back to my normal because life had changed in that moment, and the injustice of her experience as a 14-year-old girl, being trafficked, and I couldn't tolerate the idea that was happening here in my country.
Yeah.
And so that became just this mobilizer,
Wow.
right?
And like you said, not just in your city, but in your country.
Right.
There's an ownership there.
Well, oddly, I grew up in Bangkok.
Wow.
So it's just, again, God's sense of humor. I'd end up in Baltimore, not Bangkok.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
and then the second fold to that was after 12 years of being in direct care and doing life with these amazing and courageous women and girls, I began to see a pattern in the stories. And too often the same kind of narrative was coming forward, that it was going back to childhood and it was going back to family. That I have kind of a puzzler's mindset, right? I always putting puzzles together, and started to see that these pieces kept reoccurring, and so that was a catapult into, I've got to look into this.
Yeah.
And again, having an overseas experience coupled with being in the United States, we always look at, the idea of a mom selling her kids as something that is, a third world country
That's right.
problem.
That happened here.
But the study yielded it's somewhere between 26 to 47%
That's
of
crazy.
the child trafficking cases here in the United States.
My goodness gracious.
And being exacerbated by some of our conditions right now with immigration, with
That's
the
right.
fentanyl crisis, with the lockdowns,
That's
the
right.
sexualization of children online, the children being homeschooled, being totally online in school, and all of that has created somewhat of a perfect storm for perpetrators online and perpetrators within the very home.
Oh my goodness. Well, that's incredible work that you're doing, and we're so glad that you're in that space. If there are folks that are at home that want to get connected to the Institute, that want to find resources for how to care well for people in their community, or they're seeing some patterns too and want to be involved in the national conversation. How
Right.
would they get connected?
Right. So after we did this direct care service for about 13 years, we pivoted to the Institute for Shelter Care, and that's an umbrella organization that is looking to raise access to care and quality of care. So we do a lot of research in this space, and we also are helping to build up with training. So you can go to instituteforsheltercare.org
InstituteForShelterCare.org.
and reach out to us. There is a national map of all the shelters in the United States that are
Wow.
open and active, and we would be happy to connect anybody because every one of these shelters needs to partner with the medical community.
That's right. That's right. Dr. Allard, thank you so much for your work. We look forward to hearing sometimes the tragic reality of the situation, but without knowing what's actually happening, we can't address it
Right.
with the healing love of Jesus. So
Right.
thank you so much for your
As
work.
my girls always say, when you know better, you do better.
That's right. That's right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Allard. Enjoy the conference. Powerful work, friends. Powerful work. And if you're involved in that work, thank you for continuing to labor. And we hope you know that your labor is definitely not in vain. We're going to continue with one more interview for this segment. We're going to have a couple of our exec team. This is Joji Thomas. Come on in, my friend.
Hey, how you doing?
And we've got Larry Rector. Thank you guys for joining me up here, for jumping in with CCHF, the virtual experience. Tell us a little about who you are, where you are, what you do.
All right, so I'm Joji Thomas. I'm a family physician. I'm the CEO and CMO at Dayspring Health in Jellicoe, Tennessee.
Awesome.
Yep, and Larry Rector. I serve as the COO, CFO at Dayspring Health.
Y'all carry all the acronyms basically
Yeah.
for the organization is how that works, sounds like.
Right. It's just the two of us. We call each other. What do you want to be called today?
I got the front desk covered.
That's awesome. I want to see something. I want to be a CSO or Chief Spiritual Officer or something. Give me
Right,
something.
right.
Let's go. Let's go. All right. So you guys
Come join us, and you can be the Larry. there's a bunch of chief operators that
got a
we
bunch
can.
of them.
Yeah, we can do
Put
it.
anyone who wants to. You guys are deeply involved with the CCHF Executive Summit.
Correct.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about what that is for people who are watching?
Yeah, so this year we got to do the first ever executive summit, which we started on the night before CCHF starts. So we started with dinner and some time of testimony, and then today we broke out into roundtables. And really, our heart was just to help execs kind of take care of themselves, give them encouragement, equip them, inspire them, and so it was a really cool opportunity. You want to?
Yeah, I'll add. For those that are watching, they might resonate with the idea that leadership can be a very lonely place.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And fortunately, you can tell that Joji and I have a good rapport, and we have each other in this ministry. But it's one thing to find business leaders and be able to bounce ideas off with, but then to find mission, kingdom building mission business leaders, that's a rare community to find. So it was such a blessing to bring us together at the Executive Summit.
That's really exciting that you guys are doing this work. And I think so often we think that CCHF is just for doctors or nurses or medical people or med students or residents, whatever. But what you guys are here to show is that, hey, it takes a village. It takes all of us to do this kind of work. And the business side, the exec side is really, really important.
Right,
Absolutely.
right. And so I'm a physician also, right?
Yeah.
One of my many hats.
One of your many hats.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right,
exactly.
right. I'm a
Yeah.
family doc. And actually, that was the theory that I had for a long time, is that we need to take care of that patient in the room.
Yeah.
And that's our goal. That's our purpose, right? And so to be the provider of choice was really core to our business model.
Yeah.
Well, so when Larry and I started doing more of the leadership for our health center, we changed that model from being the provider of choice to be the employer of choice as
that's
well.
awesome. Yeah, that's
so it's
good.
both, right? And so when we can take care of our employees, when we can be the best in town for having the best culture, to have the best benefits and compensation, to have the best kind of a place that you can be heard and valued, and where people see their job as a sacred moment.
Yeah.
Wow. That's where
powerful.
the magic happens, and that's where this executive summit happens, where we're like, wow, this is where we want it to happen. So yeah, we had such a great time the last 2 nights.
Okay, so there's some folks that are watching, I'm sure, that are like, Man, I wish I would have been a part of that, man.
Yeah,
where
were
was
you?
that?
Where were you?
Where were you at? Yeah, where was that? So if they want to get connected with other execs that are doing the same kind of work,
Yes.
or if they want to get plugged in for next year,
Yeah.
what's the best way to do that?
Call Larry Rector. I'll give you his. What's your cell phone? What's your cell phone?
We're not saying that.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
No, but really.
Really, yeah.
If people want to get connected as execs, when part of
Yes.
this community you guys are trying to build,
Yes,
how would they
yes.
get involved? What's the first step to do that?
Yeah, so really reach out to Steve Noblet. Steve knows where we are, knows where we live. But right now, the group that's putting this together is Larry and myself, but then also Susan Post and JD Williamson. So just a cool team of us, just having a heart to connect all our execs and leadership.
Man, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's make these places the best places in our city to work, so that people who are needing the care get the highest quality people to come and do it. So
That's
let's
the
do it.
idea.
Hey,
That's
thank you
the
guys
vision.
for your work.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
You're
Thanks for
welcome.
joining us here on the CCHF Virtual
Thank you.
Experience. Glad you guys are here. Hey, as we continue the conference, I believe now we're jumping into some workshops. So feel free to pull those up on your Hoover app. Feel free to go and stream whatever workshop interests you next, and then we'll be back later on to continue this journey through the CCHF virtual experience. Thanks for being with us.